Hey, what's going on, guys? Brandon here with Texas Plinking Gear. I just wrapped up having quite a bit of fun with a certain piece of gear on the main channel. That's just Texas Plinking, doing a little bit of plinking around. So of course, if you guys want to see more silly explosions and just absolutely recreational shooting, that's for that main channel. But in this one, there's just a couple guns every now and then I get a hold of that I don't think I can just leave it at just plinking around. I want to break it down a little bit more, tell you guys what I like about a certain gun, make it a full review, which doesn't always appeal to the masses, so I don't want to do that so much on the main recreational channel. But in this gear, oriented channel, we're going to go ahead and talk about it a little bit further. But that piece of gear, of course, being this right here. This is the Langdon Tactical 92 Elite LTT RDO. Happens to be the full size. Quite a lengthy name, but everything makes sense. We're going to go ahead and break down how to get something in this configuration, as well as what other options there are, and what makes this gun. So we're going to go ahead and break down the name. So at the very beginning, this is at its core based off of a Beretta 92. In fact, of course, it still says Beretta USA on the side. So this is a Beretta, but the Beretta design's been out for quite some time. In fact, this right here is my Italian police buyback from the late 70s or early 80s. And I love it. You got a hammer fire, full metal gun. I just love that gun. And then the more modernized Beretta M9A3 underneath it. So I've always loved these Berettas. And I've known of this company called Langdon Tactical that takes that Beretta and modifies it. And I thought that was pretty cool, but I've never pulled the trigger on buying one. In any case, I was always interested, but not enough, I guess, to put the effort to seek one out. Until recently when they announced what is now the RDO, which is red dot optic. More on that in just a little bit. But before we even talk about the RDO, just what Langdon does to a standard Beretta 92 is pretty darn sweet. Again, they totally transform a gun that's been out for some time that I've already liked. Starting with the trigger job. There's plenty of ways to do this. You could either just get a full gun from them, nice and easy, and send it to your FFL if you don't have an existing gun. Or if you have an existing gun, even an M93 or whatever else, you can send it to them and they can modify that for you, or you could buy a trigger pack and do it yourself. But what that trigger pack is and what they do, they make the trigger quite a bit better. In case you guys didn't know. Making sure, of course, it is empty. Let's go ahead now that it's racked. The single action, nice definitive wall, super, super nice trigger, as one would expect. Where they really did a number on this is the reset. Unbelievably short, very, very crisp. Go ahead, single action again. And then, of course, where they really, really did some work with this trigger is double action. So linear. Of course, it's still heavy because it's double action, but it's just linear. It just pulls the same way all throughout. Very, very nice. No surprises. And that is very nice to have because on this model here, all RDOs will be the G model, which if you guys don't know what that means, it looks like it has a slide mounted safety, but it does not. This only works as a decocker. As you can see, the hammer is back. This will send the hammer forward, of course, without flying around, and it's just a decocker, so now your next pull is going to be a heavy trigger. So your safety is just putting it on double action mode, if you will. There we go. Of course, once you start shooting, it's going to go ahead and cycle, and you're going to have single action from then on, and then you're going to have a very, very nice single action trigger and reset from there on. So that is the trigger. They've been doing that. There's other ways to do that. You don't need to go full out RDO or buy the full gun from them. But there are other things they offer. One that you see on this gun is the NP3 coating. Anything that looks like silver is a certain coating, they call it NP3 coating, that makes everything run quite a bit slicker. It's corrosion resistant, but most importantly, it's actually just drop dead sexy. But let's talk about the goods and what made me finally jump to getting myself an LTT. And that is the recent addition of what's called the RDO. To mount a red dot on a Beretta took quite a bit of engineering, re-engineering actually, of I believe it was 5 different components. Real quickly, the firing pin block, among other things. I won't get too far into it, but quite a bit had to be done that Beretta wasn't willing to do. I guess they didn't think that the market really wanted it, I suppose. I don't know, but red dots on pistols, if you haven't tried it yet, you have to. What I love about a red dot on a pistol, or well, anything for that matter, but especially on a pistol, it takes away the guessing out of it. Don't get me wrong, it's not gonna make you an absolute hero. You're gonna start hitting everything right away. But with practice, you will start to get way, way faster, way better. But it takes away the guessing. Again, it's not gonna make you hit everything. And when you miss though, it's just very telling why you missed. I can hold an iron sight gun and I think I'm steady. As soon as I put on a 2 or 2.5 MOA dot, it's very shaky. And when I miss left or miss right, I very well saw that dot move just before I pulled the trigger. So it's very, very telling. And that's why I like that. It'll make you a steadier and better shooter. And once you get the rhythm down, and once you know how to find your red dot very, very quickly and land right on there, with a little bit of practice, you become a much faster and a much better shooter overall shooting a red dot optic. So for them to re-engineer the firing block, firing pin among 4 or 3 other components, Beretta wasn't willing to do that because they, I guess, didn't think the market wanted it, but Langdon did. And that's why once they made this, I was willing to jump into getting an LTT, and I'm very glad I did. Another option offered by Langdon Tactical is something called the carry bevel. In short, that's pretty much all the hard edges that come from a Beretta. Langdon Tactical, by hand, will smooth all of that out. So either easier for carrying, or if you just want to reduce the chance of slide bite or whatever else. This one has every option but the carry bevel, and I've been fine with it, but it's just one of those things that if you really, really want, it's cool that they offer that. So on top of that list of modifications you can select from, they also have 3 different sizes. Like I said, this one is the full size. There's also a compact, and then there is a happy medium, which is a Centurion. What the Centurion is the full-size frame, so you still have that feel, but the compact slide and barrel. But other than that, the MP3 coating, the RDO, everything else is pretty darn trick. So talking about that, if you're gonna get a full gun from them, let's talk about some price points real quick. So once you're already committed to getting a full gun from Langdon Tactical that is an RDO already, it starts at $1,515. As tested, this one right here with the MP3 and all the goodness is $1,765. I should mention with any gun, complete gun, you get 3 magazines. They're Metgar 18 rounders. And if you go MP3 coating, your mags get the sweet coating as well. So that's pretty darn sweet. Again, that's buying a complete gun already. If you're someone who has a Beretta you love so much, you don't care about anything else I said, not even the trigger job, the MP3 coating, nothing. You like your Beretta, all you want is an RDO slide. You could either buy a complete slide already and have your current slide just to have a backup with irons. So they offer that for you, or you can set in your existing slide, and currently, might change with lead times or whatever else, you're just gonna have to check with them. But currently, if you wanna send in your slide, get it back as an RDO slide, it's gonna cost you just over $350. So there's multiple options for you, and that's pretty sweet. As far as the optics you can run on your LTT Elite RDO, I will go ahead and throw a list right over here. So if you have a red dot that's one of your favorites, go ahead and see if it's on the list. Otherwise, if you don't have a favorite, that's what to shop for. So me personally, I went with the Holosun. This is a HS507C. It's pretty sweet, multi-reticle. You could get a green reticle or a red reticle. A little solar panel up top, so it kind of extends the life of your battery. Quite a bit of battery life on this one. Not a full review on this optic, so I won't go too far into it. But yeah, pretty cool. You can go from single dot, little donut to death. Cool thing with what they did when re-engineering this to get it set very, very low is now we can run suppressor height sights, and with the red dot off, co-witnesses perfectly, so you can always have your irons if something happened to the battery or if you left it off for whatever reason. As far as the light, it's a nothing special O light. I actually mostly have it on there. Don't get me wrong, it works fine, I like it, but I mostly had it on there just for a little bit of forward weight, just to really emphasize the flat recoil impulse of this thing. Even with no light, something about Berettas just have a really nice, smooth, almost delayed feeling, but not in a bad way, but just flat recoil impulse. If you throw a little light on there, just to use it as a weight, only enhances that feeling. So it just keeps it nice and level. Another thing I want to mention real quick are the grips. They are super comfortable, whether you have gloves or no gloves. They're pretty darn thin, but the gun itself isn't too thin to where you're kind of over gripping it. It's a happy medium because the frame of a Beretta, they haven't changed that. You have double stack 9mm in there, so it's not too thin, but the grips themselves really don't bulge too much out. The amount of texturing is just, again, perfect. Kind of smooth, rough enough. I don't know, I just really dig the grips, but of course you could change them out later if you want. But I really, really dig these. Looking through it, I think I covered most of the talking points that I wanted to, but there's one thing I kind of want to leave you guys on. It's up to you guys to decide where a gun like this kind of fits in whatever you need it for. If you find a use for it in whatever line of work you're in, then fantastic. If you see it as a truck gun, fantastic. If you see it as a really cool nightstand gun, then great. But it's always gonna be your choice, your money. And in someone in position like me, who is a recreational shooter and justifies hoarding guns because of what I do with the main channel and just showing recreational shooting, I just like things that not only shoot great, of course, but a little bit different and just fun to shoot overall. So if you're watching this from a recreational shooter's point of view, I think you're really gonna like this gun. Of course, like I said, if you find some other, real world work use for it, then great. Self-defense or whatever else, then great. But I'm really enjoying this as a recreational shooter as well. I'll tell you why. It's got some really cool key points that I like that I found that I like through shooting many other guns. I don't think it was Langdon Tactical's intention to make a race gun out of a Beretta, but I'll tell you what, they might have accidentally kind of hit the right components to kind of get this feel, to feel like a pretty fast gun. That being, of course, it's a Beretta, so it's a full metal gun between the slide and frame. It's a hammer fire, so of course you have double action your first shot on this gun, but once it's shooting, it's a single action. You have a double stack 9mm with 18 round capacity. You could get some extended mags, but otherwise if you could do 18 plus 1. And overall, just a really nice flat recoil impulse, natural from the Beretta. And you just are left with something, especially once it's cut now for a red dot, that kind of feels like you could be a bit speedy with a decent amount of practice. I don't think they try to make a racehorse out of a mule, but what they ended up doing, whatever it is, it just ends up working and you don't realize it until you shoot it. In fact, I should probably mention how I got introduced to this gun in the first place, other than knowing about it. I was at the shoot in Savannah, Georgia, the Big Daddy Unlimited shoot. So I was walking by their booth and they more or less had this gun right here, ready to shoot at a range with little poppers set up at, I think it was like 25 yards away. Whereas all the other vendors with pistols had their shots within about 10 yards. And I went ahead and grabbed this thing and nailed every shot that I did shoot at 25 yards. And that really showed me that I don't understand how good something is or how it could be better than the sum of its parts until I shot it. And I remember right then and there, I talked with the guys at Langdon, introduced myself, thought we could maybe make some videos, and I'm glad we are able to. I ended up buying my gun, but they cut me a little bit of a discount for making a little bit of content, and for that I'm appreciative of, but I still forked out quite a bit of coin on it, and I'm very glad I did. Might not be the last LTT I own. I've been happy with it. And I think that's all that I needed to say on this video. So again, that's the Langdon Tactical LTT Elite RDO, the new edition, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But that does it for this video. Stay tuned for some fun content on both channels. But again, that does it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a good day.